Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, intuitive astrologer, Reiki master, and empowerment coach. And I'm here to talk about this week's new moon in Gemini. Today is May 25th, 2022. And the new moon in Gemini will be at 9 degrees on May 30th at 4:30 a.m. Pacific time. But before I talk about the aspects, I'm just going to do a quick bit of business. First, I want you to know that I am a whole sign Western astrologer. So for the purposes of these videos, you're going to look at your rising sign. I also suggest the moon. To me, the moon is on a par with your rising sign, as the rising sign represents your perception and the moon represents your emotional body. And I've been on this planet long enough to know that if emotionally we are not aligned to our happiness, if we're feeling disruptive or we're feeling some of the lower energies of the human experience, it's very difficult for us to manifest those higher vibrations of what we want to experience. So I think the moon is super, super, super important. And finally, the sun. The sun, it represents how we project ourselves out into the world. So again, the rising and the moon, I think, are on a par with each other, and then the sun third. If you want to only check one sign, I would check my moon sign. And if your moon has aspects to other planets, look at that as well, because as the moon goes around the zodiac, it triggers these points kind of like a pinball wizard. So, whole sign Western astrologer. If you'd like to book a reading with me, I am available. My information is below. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I needed to say. I don't think so. So let's jump right in. Gemini. What does Gemini rule? Gemini pretty much rules our everyday lives. It rules information. It rules our mental processes. It rules what we speak, what we teach others about us through what we speak. It rules the loop of our mind, the things that keep us up at night, honestly, the things that we stress about, that we worry about. It rules short bits of information, not necessarily volumes of information. So it's going to be snippets, sort of like Twitter. Twitter's a great example. There's just little short bits of information coming out. It also rules ideas. It rules our siblings. It rules our teammates, our workmates. It rules our neighborhoods, our communities. It rules short distance travel, usually anything less than 100 miles. And all of these things are going to come into play as we go into a new moon. What is a new moon? A new moon is when the sun and the moon have come together, and they are coming together to create something new. It is the darkest phase of the moon, when we plant our seeds in faith that they will grow as the moon illuminates to its full position. This will be the beginning of a 6-month cycle. So we will see in Sagittarius time, because that's the opposite sign of Gemini, we will see a full moon in Gemini, and it will be the culmination. So this is a wonderful time for you to really set intentions for new opportunities and be willing to look at your own focus. I think this is super important, because our focus starts the wheels of manifestation. It starts the momentum. It starts to kick in the laws of attraction. And while there are 12 universal laws, the law of attraction seems to get the most attention. And one of the things we don't think about the law of attraction is that we can attract in experiences, but if for some reason those experiences are not what we deem particularly safe or things we can bet on, then sometimes we will negate the experience, or we will pass on the experience. So it isn't necessarily that the universe did not bring us opportunities, but our fear did not let us move through the opportunity. And that brings me to this idea that Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is in retrograde, and Mercury is making aspects to planets that I think are rather important right now. And one of them is Saturn. It is squaring Saturn. Saturn to me, or a square, I'm sorry, is a friction. It's like, I always picture it sort of like sandpaper because it doesn't sound good and it doesn't necessarily probably feel good, but the outcome is a softening of an edge, a smoothing of something. So the friction brings some opportunity for a smoothing. Saturn represents our fears. It represents repression. It represents where we see rules and structures that we are in some ways obligated to. We don't have a choice, or at least we feel we don't have a choice in those. So as Mercury retrogrades being an opportunity to review, to reflect, to rest, to research. You see the RE, anything with an RE. It's not about pushing forward. So with Saturn making a square to Mercury retrograde in Taurus, because it's retrograding into Taurus, how we make our money, how we view our possessions and our beauty and our self-worth, it gives us an opportunity to really look at, are we absorbing information that feeds our fears? Are we inadvertently exercising behaviors that fuel our restriction or our inability to feel like we're moving forward? This is a real opportunity, because the square, again, may be a little bit challenging to look at, but as we are willing to look at it, it gives us an opportunity to shift. And this comes with the trine. Pluto is making a trine, a harmonious aspect to this Mercury retrograde during the new moon. Pluto rules transformation. Pluto rules a death and a rebirth. And in this particular case, it gives me an opportunity to really sort of give myself a look at, what am I doing? And am I moving forward? Am I thinking? Am I speaking? Am I absorbing information that moves the story I want to live forward? Or am I somehow being pulled back into this idea that there are Saturn making that square blocks to my opportunities? Because again, this is a new moon in Gemini, and Gemini rules the twins. So we'll see thought going back sort of between I can and I can't, opportunities and obstacles. We'll see a bit of a polarization. Now, the Mercury retrograde, again, this is the Lord of the new moon. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is also making a sextile to Neptune. This is an opportunity to really start to let Neptune's imagination and creativity start to take us into a new direction. So I sort of think we have this triad going on of an opportunity to look through Saturn, making a square to the Mercury retrograde. Where is my fear blocking me? And what am I willing to do to walk through that fear to build long-term success? Because Saturn rules long-term. It rules an opportunity to put forth effort and be rewarded. Saturn's got a lot of benefit once we get past the initial apparent obstacles that Saturn asks us to look at. Neptune is going to ask us to really look at where we're deceiving ourselves, where we're holding ourselves small, where our thinking is in a loop that may be where we feel an erosive energy within ourselves. I'm unable, I'm not smart enough, I'm not capable enough. And I feel like all of these thoughts are thoughts that do not serve the human and the experience. It's about being brave. And this is where Pluto really comes in, because I believe that Pluto wants to work for you. It doesn't want to kill you. Pluto wants to kill the lies that you tell yourself about being incapable or not able to find the resources, or not being pretty enough or young enough or skinny enough or voluptuous enough, whatever that not enough is. Because this new moon gives us an opportunity. It's at 9 degrees Gemini. That is the Sagittarian degree. So it's this opportunity to go from this sort of loop of what Gemini puts me in its lower energy of what do I need to get done during my day? I need to get my kids back from school. I need to feed my kids. I need to do the laundry. I need to run to Costco, blah, 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 blah. All this sort of hamster wheel energy. Now, Sagittarius represents movement as well, but it's more far-term movement. It rules philosophy and philanthropy and priests and faith and the religion and justice in many ways. And so as you allow your thinking, where am I agreeing by continuing this line of thought to experiencing something I don't want to experience anymore? And then allowing this new moon, in the darkness of the new moon, to plant the seeds of faith, so that over the next few months, you can really bring an awareness, not a judgment and not a sense of shame or regret, but just an awareness to how you may have inadvertently been getting in your own way. Now, I want to offer this as well, because come fall time, Pluto's going to go forward again. And so this is in Capricorn, no less. So I really believe that this is an opportunity to write new structure for ourselves. And as we start to write the new structure for ourselves in our individual lives, within our individual communities, within our individual thinking, we send rockets of desire out into the universe, and the laws of attraction start to respond to them. So it's kind of like, I want to offer it this way, because a lot of people are familiar with the parking spaces. You know, oh, if I declare I can get a parking space, it will happen. And that is very true. But the reason it works so well is because it's rather on a small scale. And so people find that easy to believe. So as we start to broaden the things we want to manifest, and they become harder to believe because they seem out there somewhere else, you know, other people get that advantage. Other people get to be, you know, wealthy. Other people get to be on television. Other people get to have their dreams come true. If you think about how often you chant the story of other people's abundance or your lack, you will see how you're inadvertently participating in your experience. And as you start to shift that thought, and if you can't shift it like on a dime, that's not really a problem. It starts with the awareness of it. The awareness will slow the momentum going in the wrong direction, and will start to recalibrate the momentum to move in the direction that you want. And there's an opportunity to see the fulfillment of that, or the fruition of that, or the beginning evidence of that shift when we get towards fall and that Sagittarius Sagittarius time and the Gemini full moon. So let's go through the signs and see how this is going to affect you. What house is this going to be in for the various signs? Now, again, I want to sort of emphasize, I'm a big fan of the moon. I know without a shadow of a doubt that the human manifests on their emotional body. They manifest on what they believe, and what they believe triggers their mood. Their mood is their emotional body. Their attitude is their emotional body. Their disposition is their emotional body. So I would really suggest you look at that first. Then your rising sign. I go by rising sign. So when I'm talking about what house this is affecting you in, it is based on your rising sign, which is the first house in your natal chart. So we're going to start with Aries and work our way towards Pisces. I'm going to do an angel spread for each sign, and I'm going to talk about the dynamics of the house that the new moon will be in, and how that will present opportunities for you over these next 6 months. So let's start first with Aries. Aries, this is in your third house. The third house is Gemini's natural home. Again, it rules everyday activities. It rules information. It rules and short bits of information, things that we read like in the newspaper, snippets of, you know, Yahoo trending would be an example of Geminian energy. It's the mental functions. It's the ideas. It's chatter. It's also our siblings, our teammates, our workmates, the things that we find that run our everyday lives. So let's see how this new moon, because Aries in particular has Jupiter transiting through its house for the next year. So there is a real opportunity for Aries to look at how you're thinking. And when you align to what you want to experience or what you want to birth, Jupiter is there making a favorable aspect to helping you feel strong enough within yourself to move that story forward. So let's see what the angels have to say for this new moon. For Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel in the foundational position is Bridget. The second is Archangel Michael. The third is Rochelle. And the final is Mystique. One of the things that I find interesting about Gemini is the human by nature is predisposed to please other people. And I think this really, in some ways, really kind of comes into play here when we talk about Gemini, because Gemini is so much about other people. Not only is it a social sign, it's talking about the relationships of people that we're with all the time. When we're young, it's our siblings. When we're older, it's our teammates, our workmates. It's the people that we have a common goal with. And so it'll be interesting to see how Aries, how will this, Aries is a bit of a lone soldier. Aries is the pioneer. Aries is a little bit. So we'll see how you're going to play in the team environment. Let's look. Bridget is being joined by the Joy card. Archangel Michael is being joined by the Butterfly. Rochelle is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. And Mystique is being joined by the Movement card. Okay, I want to offer this because Mercury retrograde always makes it feel like things are a little bit stalled. And as we have gone through some really interesting planetary dynamics in the last couple of years, Mercury retrograde seemed to be child's play for some of us. But I want to offer this for my Aries because having this be your third house, I'm going to focus in on how you think. I'm going to focus in on the idea that when Aries is out of balance, it can be resentful and angry and blunt and a little bit hostile. And while all of these things on a more balanced dynamic can fuel the collective, it can also, when it's out of balance, make Aries feel isolated and feel alone. So I want to offer for my Aries during this Gemini new moon, you're thinking, are you willing to be brave enough to think about your joy and be a little bit more responsible for your focus? And is your focus directed on your joy, or is it directed on some sort of story that doesn't serve you? Is it directed on a story that within your team you're not appreciated, or within your community, or by your siblings, or even for the things that you want to birth onto the internet? Because Archangel Michael is asking you to have courage and to allow yourself this Plutonian dynamic. The butterfly for me is very Plutonian. Pluto rules death and rebirth, and the caterpillar dies so that the butterfly can live. So I'm an Aries rising personally, and I know that I have a tendency to focus a little bit on the things, old stories, history that doesn't serve me anymore, history that I keep bringing into the future in different scenarios. This is where I think Spirit wants Aries to be brave, to really look at what you're focusing in on, what your thought process is, and are you bringing the old into the new? Because in the angel's advice is Rochelle offering you happiness and abundance in more than just the way of money, but feeling accepted, feeling part of the team and a valued member of the team. But part of it is you being, responsible for how you're processing your emotional body. When I was younger, and well, I wasn't that much younger, but when Eckhart Tolle first wrote A New Earth and became well known for the book, The Power of Now, I started to realize how much of my own personal focus is in my story and my you done me wrong story. And this to me really plays to my South Node in Aries, this idea of harboring resentment as if I am a victim of some kind. I am not a victim. I am, in a sense, I am having an opportunity to recognize my thought process, which contributes to my experience. And when I'm brave enough to say, I can't shift on a dime, but I can stand in awareness until my mind can start to catch up and start to rewrite that loop, because you're making progress. And I want to offer it this way. This idea of taking in joy, because ultimately this new moon for Aries has an opportunity for you to recognize the joy that's already in your life. And in doing so, you're bringing forth miraculous things. You're birthing an opportunity to really move into a dynamic where you get to experience what it is you believe about yourself. When I think about Aries, I think of Aries as the pioneer, the brave one, the hero, the fireman, the one who walks into danger and saves another without even thinking about it. And sometimes that gets muted in comparison to Aries, the warrior. So I really want to offer that this new moon gives you an opportunity, Aries, to really look at how much time you're spending focusing on all the accomplishments you have already made, all the work you've already done, and are you able to sit in that work and really take it in so that you can go on to the next level of manifestation as these months move forward. All right, let's go to our Tauruses. This Gemini new moon is going to be in your second house. Now, the second house rules our possessions. It rules our family history. And, this to me is a slippery slope, because oftentimes the family unit offers the soul the greatest opportunity for growth. And the growth doesn't always happen through easy situations. Oftentimes it happens through challenging situations. So now we think of the idea that Gemini rules our siblings. It rules our teammates. It rules our workmates. Taurus by nature rules the second house. This Gemini being your second house, again, we're going to see your self-worth come into play, what you believe about yourself. It rules the voice, the second house. Gemini rules speaking. So here, what are you speaking, Taurus? What are you allowing yourself to liberate yourself from an old story? This Gemini new moon in your house of your money, second house naturally rules money. When we layer the Taurus Gemini energy onto each other, because that's what we're going to do here, and we think of the idea of the Mercury retrograde going from Gemini into the later degrees of Taurus and then moving back into Gemini, this really gives you an opportunity to individualize your thought. Taurus is Taurus is a fixed sign. And in some ways it can be like a stubborn bull when not only it is right, technically, it will stand in that righteousness to its own detriment. So I think this is an opportunity for you to look at, where is this square of Mercury and Saturn holding me in a depression or in a feeling of isolation? And will I allow Pluto's trine to Mercury? I want to offer it this way, because these aspects are actually, Mercury is ruling the new moon, and the new moon, the ruler of the new moon is making these aspects. So that's how I'm kind of looking at this. So I don't want you to, I want to differentiate between the actual moon making these sun and moon making these aspects in the new moon, as much as I'm talking about Mercury, the planet, the lord of the new moon. So Pluto is giving you an opportunity to transform that thought. And Neptune, making a sextile to Mercury, is offering you an opportunity to dig deep into a spiritual aspect of how your challenges have really served your growth. So let's see what the angels have to say. For my Taurus rising, moon, sun, and stelliums, our first angel is Athena. The second is Isaiah. The third is Celeste. And the final is Crystal. Athena is being joined by the love card. Isaiah is being joined by the bee card. Celeste is being joined by the dog. And Crystal's being joined by the stag. I want to offer it this way for my Tauruses. Athena represents lovingly asserting yourself. And this love card feels like it has to do with love in general. I don't want to make it too much about just intimate love as much as feeling love within your community, from your siblings, within your teammates, workmates, within your neighborhoods, loving your everyday life. And I think that's what this is about, is really asserting yourself to the things that you love in your everyday life, because Isaiah is here offering new beginnings. And this is an opportunity for you to look at your being energy, meaning what is my attitude, my disposition? What do I really feel about my life? And do I sit and think about that? And am I inadvertently perpetrating a crime upon myself because I'm focused on my problems rather than trying to find the neutral zone? You know, the solution is not always obvious or present when we're in the midst of a challenge. But if we allow ourselves a bit of air, the universe can bring in an inspired thought or action that then takes us in a new direction. And this is what a Mercury retrograde offers us. So Celeste is offering a new home or a new place of employment, but oftentimes I see this as a shift in my mind, because wherever I am, I think a certain way, and it's not going to change because my location has changed. So in the angel's advice, this shift is for Taurus to start focusing in on what you love again, on the things that are working, on things that are, rather than whether you've actually experienced them, it's time to start talking about the things you want to experience, to start to change your dialogue from what has been and lack and whatever. Because if this is your second house, you may be focused on lack of money. You may be focused on lack of people showing appreciation for you or value. You may be even having challenge with siblings and don't feel appreciated there. This is time and an opportunity to change your self-talk, because as you lovingly assert yourself towards what you love and what you want, then, and this can include other people, it can include other dynamics, but it's almost in such a way where you're putting it at a level which is broadening the thought. I apologize for any banging you're hearing. There's construction all over my house. Can't get a video done without construction going on. So Taurus, look at this. This is the bull in some ways. It is an elk. It is the stag, but it's time to put down your pride and start to believe in something that you can't see. It's a little bit of a time to you know, Venus is about to go into your sign, which is going to be really fun. Venus is your lord and ruler. So I want you to start to use this new moon, not for evidence that things are happening, but to plant those thought bubbles out into the universe, to really pay attention. What am I absorbing myself in? Am I inadvertently playing to the sad story? Or can I open up to, this is just one chapter of my life? And as the sad story closes, a chapter of happiness and of love and of connectedness opens up and is more beautiful because of this previous chapter that I experienced. All right. Gemini, let's go on to Gemini. This is your moon in your first house of self, which is, whoops, pretty fascinating. Sorry, I just dropped a card. I'll be right back. All righty. So the first house represents the very first experience as we are birthed into this planet. It's all about how we start to perceive ourselves, how we view ourselves. And if Gemini is your first house, if you're a Gemini rising, I would think most people find you fun to be around. You know, you're very social, you're very entertaining and engaging, probably very witty. And so I think that this new moon offers you an opportunity to really think about where it is that you want to assert yourself, where it is that you want to start to shift old patterns that no longer serve you. And I almost want to say it this way, where Saturn is really, while Saturn is squaring Mercury, your ruler, it is also, I kind of like to think of a square as the beginning of a foundation. So that friction really gives us an opportunity to clean up what needs to be removed in order for new growth and for vital growth to take place, to thrive. So I feel like this is an opportunity to put seeds into the universe for long-term benefit. And it doesn't mean you can't start to experience your goal more rapidly, but I think that long-term is sort of thinking of it as something that will be foundational, something that will apply roots. And then we get to use this Pluto energy to really, a trine is a harmonious aspect. And here we have this Mercury ruling what I think, and Pluto coming in and saying, are your thoughts serving the experience you want to have? Because the challenging side of Gemini is it rules that loop, that branding that our brain gets early on. And that branding oftentimes will tell us we're not enough, we're not doing enough, we're not, taking enough action. And I think this is where Pluto wants to sort of blow it up and say, is that really true? Or are there other things coming into play? Could it be that the universe, the world, needs to transform before you can really implement what you want? Personally, for me, I'm of a certain age, I'm over 60 years old. And when I was growing up and I loved all this stuff, it was voodoo. It was not at all acceptable. There was not information as readily available. There was no internet. And I had to kind of grow older, and technology had to develop in order for me to really be able to live the life that I dreamt of. So when you think to yourself, Gemini, this isn't just my personal effort, but my combined effort, my thoughts, my speaking, my actions in relation to co-creation with the universe and the people around me. So let's see what Spirit has to say for you. Oops. What you doing over there, Lucky? He loves to sit under my chair and dig to China because he's from China. He's a Chinese crested. All right, here we go. Rochelle, Gemini, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Follow your heart. It's time to give birth to new ideas, Isaiah is saying. Vanessa's going to ask if you're going to base your decisions on faith or fear. And Serena's talking about abundance, but I think she may be talking about serenity more. So let's see. Serenity is a powerful tool. And within the term serenity, there's a feeling of surrender. There's a feeling of understanding and a sense of wisdom about when to take action and when to allow for rest so that there can be inspired action. Rochelle is being joined by the bee, Gemini. Isaiah is being joined by the water fairy. Vanessa is being joined by the king. And Serena is being joined by the wasp. Okay, so, Gemini, Mercury is the quickest planet around. The moon is exclusive to Earth, but the planet in the solar system, Mercury, moves the fastest around the sun. So this can sometimes make Gemini want to just move the story forward. But I want to offer this because during this Mercury retrograde, which is going to go on until June 3rd, and then there's going to be a storm period that's going to last about 4 days. It's going to be really powerful before the planet gets any momentum moving forward. And that's going to last till about June 7th. So I'm really offering you an opportunity to ask yourself, am I sitting within my heart chakra? Rochelle is asking you to follow your heart. And when you follow your heart, bounty will come. And the bee is all about, what do I believe about following my heart? And I want to offer it this way, because you can tell the story that you believe what's going on in your heart. But if you're feeling frustrated, then the underbelly of that is not belief. It is impatience and frustration. And I say this because it's time to give birth to new ideas and new situations, and to really check your emotions. Are your emotions really aligned to what it is you want to experience? Because in the angel's advice is Vanessa, and there is the king. And the king represents justice. It represents karma. It represents things in balance. And Vanessa represents faith or fear. So I believe what Spirit is saying is, if you've been feeling frustrated, Gemini, if you've not been able to manifest something, it's really about, are you following your heart or are you following your head? Because you could be following your head easily. You could inadvertently be so caught up in those everyday activities and responsibilities. And it's almost like a hamster wheel. I almost feel like I see a family and the calendar. We've got to go here. We've got to be there. We've got to, and there's really no thought because we're chasing all those activities. So if you can slow it down a bit, at least within your mind, and start to connect with your heart and give new life to your emotional body, and really pay attention to the faith you have about things coming to you. Because I think the problem, if you have not been manifesting something, is you lack serenity about it. I talk to people all the time and they're like, Teri, I'm doing the work. And yet they're sitting here and they're frustrated and they're annoyed. They're like, I've been doing all the work. I've been doing my vision boards, and I've been, making room for that spouse, that mate. And yet at the same time, they're not able to identify that the frustration, the looking at the clock, is starting to get in their way. If you're of a certain age, the medical community has told you your eggs are dying, or whatever, your sperm is going to be slow, or, there's so many fear bubbles about our body's ability to do what it knows how to do. And so if for some reason you're one of these people that's walking through this journey of feeling lack of your own identity, this is for Gemini, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I feel like Spirit is really asking you to look at how frustrated you are, how much anger you're really harboring at this moment. And it may not be anger at anyone else. It may just be the frustration. I mean, we went through 2020 and isolation and masks, and, we got everything 2.0 and 5.0, and you turn around every 5 minutes, there's something going on telling you that your body's not going to be able to sustain itself. And now here's about serenity. If you can do your best to get back into what it feels like once you have lived the experience, or once you've gotten close to it, any little bit of shifting that you can do to put yourself in a vibration and a believability of the things that you want. And if you can't do that, if you can be mindful of, am I spending a majority of my time talking about my problems or about what is in lack? Because if you can get back into your heart, then you can engage Spirit as your co-pilot and say, Spirit, I've been having trouble connecting with my heart right now. My mercurial mind, my Gemini back and forth is doubtful. Thank you for giving me experiences to anchor my faith. And then the universe can start to work with you. The human has a lot of power that it doesn't know that it has, or it doesn't acknowledge that it has, because we're pummeled with these feelings of powerlessness. We're going to walk out and breathe air and we're going to catch something, or, we're going to be out on the baseball field and we'll have an asthma attack. I mean, it's just these commercials are crazy. So I really want to encourage Gemini to pay attention. Am I chattering, or do I have intentional thought? And is my intentional thought, is my intentional talk moving me towards what I want to experience, what I crave to experience, or is it reaffirming what I've already experienced that I don't want to experience anymore? Okay, let's go on to our Cancers. This Gemini new moon is in your 12th house, Cancer. And 12th house is a very spiritual house. It's a house of I think it's a deep house of meditation and reflection. It's kind of, I always picture myself as a little girl being in my bedroom with my hairbrush and singing and wanting to be a rock star. Nothing I would ever do in public. There's a feeling in the 12th house of quiet, of dreaming, not just sleep dreaming, but of imagination. It's ruled by Neptune. And in ancient times, the 12th house is ruled by Jupiter, by nature. So I feel like for my Cancers, this idea of your 12th house being Gemini is, how can I use my mind to facilitate a more spiritual perception of my life and what I want to experience? There's a bug that just landed on my screen, and I thought it landed on my wall. And if it had landed on my wall, it would have been huge. Okay, Cancer, let's look and see what the angels have to say for you right now. Our first angel is Aurora. The second is Crystal. The third is Caressa. And the final is Akasha. One of the things at the beginning of the video that I was talking about is that Pluto is making a positive aspect to Mercury, which is the ruler of this new moon. Mercury is retrograde. So there's an opportunity to really reflect. Again, this is the 12th house where this is happening. So this is an opportunity for Cancer to really reflect on all of the things that have been going on for you. And I want to offer it this way because in many respects, Cancer's had a tough time as Pluto has been transiting Capricorn because it's created an opposition. Now we see we see Pluto in the late degrees of Capricorn making an opposition to the late degrees of Cancer. This is very transformational because as Pluto makes a trine to Mercury, you, Cancer, rising moon, sun, and stelliums have an opportunity to take that transformation that you've been going through and anchor it into a place that feels aligned to what you want to experience, and to use these last few years, rather than to think of them as trying to beat you up, look at them as, what have they taught you about your thinking process and your ability to manifest? Because there's a strong dynamic right now that feels as if something actually really wonderful could happen as a result of this new moon when you put your intentions out. So let's see. Aurora is being joined by the mystery card. Crystal's being joined by the joy card. Caress is being joined by the truth card, and Akasha is being joined by Merlin. So I want to offer this to you. Cancer, your Aurora says you're flying high right now, that may threaten others, but don't descend because you will soon inspire others. And the mystery card is about free will. It's about the human's opportunity to make choices. So I feel like as you make choices to really align your mind, your dreams, your hopes to what it is you want without evidence in the 3D world, but rather thinking to yourself, okay, this is sort of me going into this meditation. And rather than looking, what does spirit want to tell me? This is my turn to tell the universe and spirit what I want to manifest and what I want to plant the seeds and then to experience within my everyday life as this new moon gives more and more life to this intention. Because Crystal is saying, Cancer, have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon that you can't see. And there is the joy card. And then we have the number 37, which aligns to thought. Every number that reduces down to a 1 is the number of thought. And thoughts are things. And those thoughts, when they're repeated often enough, literally become manifest in our physical experience. So Caressa in the angel's advice is coming to the end of a life cycle. And there's the truth card. And I want to offer it this way because every new moon is an ending and a new beginning, and every full moon is an ending and a new beginning on some level. So here, this ending is of sadness. This ending is of the illusion that you're in the dark in some ways. And the truth is that you've been in some sort of gestation period as you learn to trust that Cancerian inner knowing. if you think about the idea that Gemini is your 12th house, but naturally Pisces rules the 12th house, which is your fellow water sign, very intuitive sign. So as you sit and you allow your mind to sort of kind of drift away and let your inspirations come through, I feel you'll start to see a deeper truth coming in, and that the universe in many ways would have been maybe removing things that were interrupting your joy. Or if they weren't removing them, then they were illuminating in some ways the value that you have, how much you are actually appreciated within your community, by your siblings, within a love relationship, because ultimately, I believe that something just is happening, something that you've been working towards. I could go to balance right here, but I don't know if I think it's that. I think this feels karmic. And Akasha's the teacher. And I think what you're learning, Cancer, because you're so emotional, you're ruled by water, the crab tends to, crawl sideways. It doesn't necessarily move forward. So there can be this tendency with Cancer to feel a bit of, I picture the ocean coming and going and that crab trying to hold its own against the ocean. But as we trust that tide, as we trust what the ocean wants to tell us, and we surrender to that, we're less likely to be overcome by it, because your choice to trust a bigger picture of what you've learned, to really leap off the balcony of the old and into the new with this new moon. And I think you're going to learn something truly about how the universe works to bring in balance when there appears to be no balance. And I want to offer it this way, because I think this is also super important for Cancer to spend time focusing in on the things that bring you joy. And if you've been in a place that is felt so joyless for so long that you can't think of what brings you joy, then that is where you say to Spirit, I'm out of balance, I'm out of alignment, and I need your help so that I can get down to the truth of who I am. And who you are as an energetic being who lives infinitely and offers your soul experiences in this human dynamic to evolve to greater places of joy and of love and of accomplishment. Okay, let's go on to our Leos. This Gemini new moon is in your 11th house of networks. And as I say that, I also think that the 11th house rules our hopes and our dreams and our desires. It's also a house that, as we age, is called an upachaya house. So it offers benefit as we age. So let's see how this is going to play out for our Leo, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. I really think the significance of the degrees comes into play here, because we're talking about a Gemini new moon, which rules the everyday experiences, those things that occupy our mind, but don't necessarily move our story forward. The to-do list, the errands list, the everyday, I want to say hamster wheel of my routine. So now we go to the new moon being at 9 degrees, which is the Sagittarian degree, an opportunity to move into a more philosophical way of thinking, to start to bring into the material world and into your networks these concepts that you have, these sort of innovations that you may have, Leo. Innovations of mind, innovations of thought, innovations of communication. That's the way I want to put it. All right, for our Leos, our first angel is Oceana. The second is Desiree. The third is Teresa. And the final is Indra. I spoke earlier that there's a square of between Saturn and Mercury retrograde, and the square is a challenging aspect, yes, but as I interpret it, it is an opportunity to really kind of hone in and soften the edges of what is not working. So if we think of a square being one corner of a foundation, Saturn representing long-term things, there's an opportunity to build within your 11th house of networks, to build a stronger, more authentic group of people around you. I don't know why I want to put it that way. Not to say that maybe your old network wasn't authentic, but maybe it's not authentic to your own personal growth. Maybe you've outgrown a situation. Now we're growing into something new. Oceana is being joined by the Wind Fairy. Desiree is being joined by the Trust card. Teresa is being joined by the Risk card. And the Deer is joining Indriel. There is something very interesting about this, because I think that for my Leos, there may be either an expansion of your network or an expansion of how you're producing things in the everyday world. Oceana is asking you to get in touch with your emotions, but the Wind Fairy, you know, this is very Geminian, and it's a 29, which reduces down to an 11. So I want to say, Leo, you know, Leo rules the heart. And one of the challenges of the Leo rising, Leo energy, is to be vulnerable to the heart. You know, it rules actors and performers and creativity. And so when we birth something, the audience tends to dictate how we feel about it. So when they applaud us, we get excited, but when they boo us, we have a bit of obviously a negative feeling about it. So for my Leos, I think this is about really trusting your emotional body, the things of your heart, and not to let your head get in the way. Because, and I say that, Desiree is saying conditions aren't favorable. And then we have the Trust card, and that's a 47, which reduces down to an 11. So conditions may not be favorable at this moment in time, but your focus on the idea that there is a shifting of things that were okay, that were, I almost want to say the word content. And now I feel like it's time to rise to a greater level. And as we do this, planting these seeds in this Gemini new moon of, I'm going to start to open up my neighborhood, open up my community, bring in new business. What have I been thinking, speaking? Have I been inadvertently focused in on the challenges versus the opportunities? Because Teresa's about worry for me, and this is in the angel's advice. And there's the Risk card, and the risk is a 4. The risk is to build something beyond your worry. The human will tend to make their fears real. They will defend their fears, and then they will hate them at the same time. And I feel like this is an opportunity to do neither of those things, meaning don't defend your fears and don't try to avoid your fears, but rather come back into your heart chakra and say, what feels good for me? Leo rules pleasure. It rules romance. It rules hobbies and games and entertainment. And I feel like if for some reason your head is going off and you cannot calm it down, go do something fun, because you will have an inspiration that will take you to the next step once you calm down your fears and you're in a more gentle and diplomatic energy. The monkey mind will make things feel very real. And the Saturn square to Mercury will make our fears feel very, very real. But if on some level we could have the wherewithal to say, is that fear happening now? Am I building a case for my fear? Am I dragging? There's a little bit of something that if we're honest enough to say, sometimes I inflate the story because I just so badly need to be validated. If you can get in your own head, Leo, and say to yourself, I no longer need to inflate the negative in order for me to feel positive. Because I do think that this taking action on your heart is superseding what your brain is telling you. And the heart will tell you to sit for a minute and to recalibrate that trust bubble. Don't move until you feel a sense of trust in yourself, because your worry is stopping things, and it's time to risk that, acknowledging that worry doesn't serve us. And in doing so, spirit can then inspire you. This is one of the universal laws, is inspired action. And we don't talk about that one very much. But when we can calm down long enough to say, sometimes no action is action, because that no action gives the universe an opportunity to literally illuminate a path for us to walk down. All right, let's go on to our Virgos. This is going to be in your 10th house of career, in the public eye. And when I say public eye, it doesn't always mean large groups of people, but here we are, Gemini. This could be your community, your workmates, your teammates. Your presence is very palatable within your community. Now, I would imagine as a Virgo that you represent being of service. So you may be a key player in your team. And this Gemini new moon is giving you an opportunity to really look at, am I building things that I want to experience down the line? Or am I being such a team player that I'm inadvertently being of service in a way that doesn't serve me? Saturn square. And I say that because Saturn rules obligation and duty, and Virgo is naturally willing to be of service. So now I want to take the Plutonian dynamic of the trine in Capricorn and start to think about writing my structure so I'm creating a win-win. And that would be the sextile to Neptune. How can I, by looking at this through a spiritual dynamic, not have to give up one thing in order for me to experience something else, but to create a dynamic, or at least open a space within my thought process and the way that I am speaking out into the universe about creating a win-win. There is the law of vibration, and our words are vibrational. I used to have a friend who used to say to me, Teri, it's just semantics. And I was like, the more I studied spirituality, the more I'm like, no, it's a vibration. So each one of those words, while they mean similar things, carry a different energetic vibration. So there could be something about the way you're speaking to yourself or even to others, that if you shift the word just a wee bit, would be more advantageous to the experience you want to have. Let's look, Virgo. We have Rochelle in the foundational position. We have Yvonne in the opportunity or the obstacle. We have Mystique in the angel's advice. And then we have Indriel in the final position. Virgo, this may be a good time to follow your heart when it comes to how you want to be seen within your community, within your circle, your network, your workspace. It could even be like anywhere where you're around community. I kind of want to say, like, so if you volunteer at church, that could be something that where you're in the public eye. I don't know why I wanted to go there, but I wanted to open it up to be beyond just the workspace, but other places where we are gathered in community and yet are seen by others. All right, Virgo. Rochelle and the Earth Fairy are coming together. Yvonne and the Restriction card. Mystique and the Novice. And Indriel and the Love card. Okay, Virgo rules health as well as service. So I want to offer it this way, because the Earth Fairy offers a new foundation, a new platform to walk upon. And Rochelle talks about following my heart. And I want to say this just as a side note, because I don't know that I think this is about health, but if you've had concerns about your health, or, we get to a certain age and every little nook and cranny starts to make us think, ooh, or we didn't think about it before. But I want to offer this because the best way to feel healthy is to allow your heart to override your mind right now, Virgo. And I want to offer it also that your ruling planet is in a retrograde. So as you start to really contemplate how, am I following my heart? I think that you're going to find yourself running up against a crossroads between being vulnerable to what your heart wants and feeling a bit of restriction from your mind, and what your mind is telling you that you need to birth, or you need to continue to do, or you need to perpetrate within your everyday activities. Because in the angel's advice, they're asking you not to make a physical change. They're asking Virgo to start to contemplate from a mental place a new beginning. And I say mental, but I mean mental from the heart chakra. So that sounds a little counterintuitive. It's about thinking about my heart and what my heart wants. So if indeed you're of a certain age and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm getting close to retirement, but I still need blah, 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 then I think this is about saying to spirit, thank you for giving me experiences that support my foundation, not only my health, but also the physical ground I walk on, my material success, as I trust myself. And if for some reason you're a Virgo and you want to start some new entrepreneurial things, well, I wouldn't start them during the retrograde. Planning to start them would be fabulous, because taking time, this is also about taking time to see if you're willing to be vulnerable to your own heart. Because unfortunately, sometimes when you're mercurial ruled, your head will not even let your heart come into play. And Mystique is saying to keep charging ahead. It's a process, and to allow for this new beginning. So it's not really about judging your efforts. It's not about trying to be perfect at them. It's about allowing the journey. Oh, I'm in the habit of going from my head and thinking things through versus feeling them through. Now, how do I put them in balance? Because I believe that Virgo is going to be inspired to start to think about the things that you love and to give life to those things, so that they can be the platform from which you manifest not only material wealth, but physical health and overall joy. And I want to offer it this way, because again, a new moon is the beginning of a process, a 6-month cycle. So if you are a Virgo who would like to have a new job or have endeavor something more visible to the people around you. That's the way I want to put it, because you could be on the internet as well. This isn't just about standing up in public with people. You may want to birth a Twitter account or an Instagram account, or maybe even start doing TikToks. I'm not sure what that is, but as you are trusting that your personality, your joy is infectious to others, then you'll start to see that the universe and the world is actually starting to rewrite itself, where we don't necessarily need to think other people are perfect, but we appreciate their authenticity as they endeavor things. Because I really think this is about what you love and allowing for inspired ideas, inspired actions to come up, and things that you'll start to implement over these next few months, and then get an opportunity to see come into fruition as we get towards the end of the year, around Sagittarius season. All right, let's go to Libra. This is your 9th house, Libra. That is the house of beliefs. That's the house of foreign travel. That's the house of philosophy, of faith, of higher education, judges, legal matters. All right, Libra, rising moon, sun and stelliums. What's up for you with this Gemini new moon? Our first angel is Ariel. The second is Indriel. The third is Fiona. And the final is Oceana. Ariel is being joined by the hawk. Indriel is being joined by the owl. Fiona is being joined by the fire fairy, and Oceana is being joined by the wealth card. The hawk is an 11, which reduces down to a, I'm sorry, I don't even want to reduce it down. It's a master number of thought. And the hawk is rising above a situation, represents signs and omens. And then there's Ariel saying new psychic and spiritual experiences are changing the way you view yourself and the world. This is happening for Libra in the 9th house. The 9th house is the connection to the angelic realm. And while this may be your house of Gemini, this is an opportunity for you to start to think in ways that has faith, moving in new directions, giving yourself as much importance as you do your partnerships, because Indriel is the light worker, and I see inspired action. And then the owl is actually the nighttime version of the hawk. So I'm not going to go necessarily to the deception and wisdom as much as I feel like this is about pulling my side up and paying more and more attention to the signs and the omens that are coming towards me to validate the next chapter, the next journey, the inspired creativity. Because in the angel's advice is the fire fairy, representing creative action and optimism. And then there's Fiona. And Fiona says, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. And I can't help but notice this inspired feeling around her head that goes very much with Indriel, which then very much aligns to Ariel. All these inspirations coming through. And I don't know that the inspirations are about taking immediate action as much as I feel like it's this inspiration that then allows me to create a foundation within my emotional body that then sets the platform for me to take inspired action on. Because Libra, there's Oceana, and the whale for me up in the corner represents my soul's destiny as it is written in the stars. And my job is to get out of my head and to swim up through my emotional body and to see that even though I rule partnership, I also rule diplomacy, Libra, harmony, people who, again, have a hero archetype, people who implement justice. So as you implement justice for yourself, there's the harmonious wealth card. And the change comes in the sense of, it's almost as if you see that when you fuel your own endeavors, your own happiness, when you're paying attention to whatever and however your mind is working, it doesn't just serve you as an individual, it serves the people around you. And here we see Libra being this sign of harmony and balance and justice, and Gemini being your ninth house. This is some sort of harmony coming from the balance of the idea that I don't want to exterminate my Geminian mind, my mind that has to take care of the details of life. We need that part of our mind. If we were always in broad strokes, we'd never get anything done. So this is a beautiful combination in the ninth house of these really bigger philanthropic thoughts and the ability to implement them in the material world. But at this moment in time, as we're finishing up this Mercury retrograde, and we have this Gemini new moon, this is about planting seeds of what you want to birth over the next few months, and then really looking for the signs and the omens that you're being supported by the universe. The fixed star Spica is in the Libra house. It's in the Virgo constellation, but it's in the Libra house. And so I feel as if there's something coming from a divine place, and Libra's job in this moment is to sit in the balance of here and there, in between the monkey mind and the philosophical mind, the everyday activities mind and the broader strokes and the foreign concepts. So as I start to give life to all these things, the universe starts to give me signs and omens that I'm moving in the right direction, and that my own personal balance is perpetrating balance for those around me. And I want to offer this too, because I think that there's going to be some money coming for Libra. I don't know why I want to put it that way, but I'm going to just say it. All right, let's go on to our Scorpios. Gemini is your 8th house. The 8th house offers us transformation and rebirth. It offers us illumination as to where we're giving our power up to other people. So let's look and see what's going on here. Scorpio, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. And I want to offer your ruling planet, Pluto, is making a favorable aspect to the Mercury retrograde. So this is an opportunity to really allow yourself to dig deep and to not necessarily look outside of yourself for the signs and the omens, or where there may be some, I kind of want to say, hidden thoughts that don't serve you, but within yourself, without judgment, just rather an opportunity to transform. Pluto, oftentimes people refer to Pluto as a malefic, and I don't really like that. I think Pluto is our biggest friend because Pluto wants to kill the lies we tell ourselves. And one of the lies we tell ourselves is that we're not constantly in a state of transformation, and that transformation will oftentimes show up through something disruptive. All right. So Scorpio, your 8th house is Gemini, and our first angel is Serena, the angel of abundance. The second is Vanessa. The third is Isabella, and the final is Daniel. Interestingly, the 8th house represents commingling of other people's money. It can represent financial people, people who move other people's money around, represent inheritances, taxes, the commingling of funds in some way. But let's see what this is about. Serena is being joined by the restriction card. Vanessa is being joined by the perception card. Isabella is being joined by the high priestess, and Daniel is being joined by the love card. This is very interesting to me, but my first thing I think of when I look at this is that Scorpio has been going through a time of feeling a lot of restriction. And I want to offer it this way because it doesn't feel like it's necessarily maybe about money, but about abundance in general, because this ends with Daniel, the angel of marriage. And Daniel doesn't necessarily represent marriage in like a romantic comedy way, but our history, the story. And the story is usually a challenging one. So let's kind of go back. Scorpio, if indeed you want to move your story forward in love, I know Gemini is your 8th house, and Gemini rules, not necessarily love, but it does rule youth, and it rules flirtatious energy and a little bit of trickery. So maybe this is an opportunity for you to really take a moment and see if you feel serene within your love body, or who you're entertaining, who you're thinking about entertaining in your love body. Because in the opportunity or the obstacle is Vanessa and the perception card. Vanessa rules faith or fear. And if you're hanging your hat on somebody who you actually on a deep level know is not really going to fuel your love tank, as they say, then you looking at your perception. And if you're too focused on the negative or the lack thereof, because spirit is asking you to go into a high priestess energy. And if anybody can do that, it's Scorpio. You naturally, to me, rule a very deep intuitive knowing, and it's time to go there. Because if indeed you want to be in a healthy relationship with another person, even if that relationship is just a business relationship or some sort of healthy exchange of money, it's time for you to start to look deeply into if you're standing in serenity of it, meaning here, am I standing in ease of flow? Because Daniel is the angel of marriage, but again, he rules our history in marriage, and there is the love card. And I feel like Scorpio, this is a time for you to really start to embrace that maybe you've been over managing your love life, or over managing whatever you want to feel abundant about, overthinking it. Maybe you've been a little bit on the dark side. Maybe you've been making a case for your lack, and that's actually not serving you. Because I think what they're telling you is to take a seat and start to rewrite the story, start to go from what feels good versus what feels bad. I can't help but think of a Scorpio that I know that that this person has their attention on somebody who really has shown up in a way that doesn't appear to be open-hearted. And sometimes we think we can love somebody out of that vibration, and it becomes to our detriment. So if this particular Gemini new moon is bringing up some stuff that's illuminating an arduousness, a lack of flow, a lack of ease, I think it's time to look at how your perception, because Scorpio again is a fixed sign and it rules power and control. So you may think, I can work my way through this. I can overpower the situation and shift it. And I don't know if that can happen. And I think this is an opportunity for you to sit back, Scorpio, and really think about, what do I want to experience in my everyday life in the way of my teammates, my workmates, my life partner. I know Gemini is not necessarily considered a partnership sign. But if you think about it, it rules the twins. They're naturally partners. So are you playing to a game that where you win, or are you somehow trying to prove that you are valuable or you are worthy? Because I think it's time to take any fight off the table. I feel as if and this is not about giving up or feeling defeated. It's more about surrendering to a deeper truth that Neptune will illuminate as it makes this sextile to Mercury. Any deceptions you've been telling yourself that don't serve you. I don't want to make it negative in the sense of you've been hurting yourself, but if you've been thinking you could love somebody through something and they're not accepting the love, then maybe they can't receive love, and it's time for you to put that love on yourself, and to also really make a decision about how you want to cohabitate with another, how you want to commingle your resources with another, and start to tell the story that works for you versus the story you've already experienced. Because if you're still repeating the story you've already experienced that you don't like, it won't change unless your thought and your words shift into faith. All right. Let's go on to our Sagittariuses. I don't want to be trivial when I say this, but this really is a time in history when we are afforded opportunities for individuality and expression and empowerment like never before. And so we are being tasked in a big way to recognize the patterns that don't serve us. So that's what all this disruption that Pluto's been doing in Capricorn. So when it goes in and stays in Aquarius, it's going to really offer us liberation, and we're preparing for that right now. So try to take these challenging things with more of it's kind of like you can't have a new home if you don't clean up the old stuff. You can't renovate without demoing. That's kind of how I look at it. All right, Sagittarius, this is your 7th house of partnerships. Let's look and see. Our first angel for Sagittarius is Seraphina. The second is Akasha. The third is Fiona. And the final is Daniel. 7th house, house of marriage, angel of marriage. Let's see what's going to happen. I apologize if you can hear all the noise in the background. There's construction going on all over. There's trash trucks. There's wonderful opportunities to blot out the everyday noise that doesn't seem to be ending for me. All right. Seraphina Sagittarius is being joined by the frog. Akasha is being joined by the mystery card. Fiona is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. And Daniel's being joined by Merlin. Seraphina talks about a change to your family, a happy change to your family. It could very well bring in a baby. I don't know if I necessarily think it's going to bring in a baby. Again, we're talking to a large group of people. This isn't an individual reading. But what I do want to offer for Sagittarius is that this particular new moon in Gemini is illuminating a thought process that is not serving every single one of us. So here you have an opportunity to clean your house, and the house represents the house of the mind. So this to me brings a change to the family. And so it feels almost as if there's some sort of reconciliation that you come to. Maybe it's coming to the conclusion that, you've done all the work you can do on a certain situation, it could have something to do with your siblings. Again, Gemini rules siblings. This is in the house of partnerships. I don't know if it feels necessarily like a marriage partner, although we have the angel of marriage here, but Daniel represents history. So this is where I'm going with this. I feel like Sagittarius is stepping into this 9th degree of this Gemini new moon, which is your Sagittarian degree. So you're stretching somehow to see a broader picture of thought and how you can clean up that thought to make your life a little bit more easy, because it feels as if you're choosing to really look at things from a spiritual teacher kind of energy. What does spirit have to teach me? I am choosing to evolve in this moment, because it looks as if spirit is continuing to ask you to be courageous in your truth and holding on to your truth ever so effortlessly as we walk through a little bit more of a storm between our mind and our heart, because spirit is about to offer you something in the way of an illumination. And I believe it's some balance. And I want to offer it this way, because Daniel being the angel of marriage, some of you may want to get married and partner up and find your person. But if you're already partnered up, or if this 7th house is ruling contractual energies like business partnerships, balance is being offered, some sort of justice is being offered. And I think that it has something to do with Sagittarius starting to focus in on the solution versus whatever the challenge may have been, or whatever the deficit may be. I feel as if there's a real kind of a polarization going on right now. The year 2022 has really kind of spoken to this master number of cooperation. And I don't think it's humans cooperating with humans as much as it's humans cooperating with themselves and their oversoul, their soul's intention for coming into this life, with a knowing that we don't die when we leave the physical experience. We continue on. So for me, Sagittarius right now is implementing some sort of emotional cleanup that stems from a way of thinking, a way of perceiving things. And you're being taught in a very, what feels like a very kind of warm, fuzzy way, how when you align to your deeper truth, the universe comes along and supports that. So I feel really, really good about how this will play out. And I think, it could be anywhere from now until the end of the year that we see the manifestation of this come into play. If Sagittarius is wanting to move the story forward in a professional way, create professional contracts with somebody, then focusing in on that. And I want to offer this. I feel a little bit like if you're focusing in on one entity or one person, you may miss the forest through the trees. So rather than going into the individual or the individual entity, going into the characteristics of that. This is a open-minded situation that provides benefit for all, that feels welcoming and warm and fuzzy. Going into those broad strokes, Sagittarius can hone them into a more Geminian energy, bringing them into your everyday world. Okay. All right, let's go on to our Capricorns. Our widow goats. All right, Capricorn, this is going to be your 6th house of service and health. Let's see what spirit has to say for you. Oop. Oh, they all jumped over. Oh my goodness gracious. I'm having trouble shuffling here. All right, Capricorn, our first angel is Celeste. The second is Crystal. The third is Archangel Michael. And the final is Daniel. Wow, a lot of Daniel showing up. I think people are going to reconcile their history in many situations, their loop. I really feel like Daniel right now is representing the loop of the thought, the imprint, the branding of how our mind works. We kind of think that we create our thoughts, but I think it's a combination of consciousness and unconsciousness. If you think about the organs of our body, we don't consciously make them work. They have their own consciousness that keeps them moving. And then our activities contribute to that. So I feel like something's going on here. All right, Celeste is being joined by the goblin. Okay. Crystal's being joined by the love card. Archangel Michael's being joined by the novice. And Daniel, the angel of marriage, is being joined by the truth card. All right, Capricorn, God bless you. You're one of my favorite signs. Every significant love interest, with the exception of one, and he was still an earth sign, has been a Capricorn for me. So I think this is a shift in the way you're thinking. And the goblin represents where you've been edging God out. If we think about the energy of Capricorn, it stoically builds over time, doesn't ask itself whether it's happy about it. It just does and continues to do. And I believe that this new moon is going to offer you an opportunity to consciously choose to shift out of a dutifulness into a more joyfulness. And I want to offer it this way because you may enjoy a certain amount of duty. That's okay. It's not about changing who you are. It's about building on what you enjoy, what you love, what actually brings you happiness. And that is different for everybody. Some people don't love to run around and, go to bars. Some people like to just stay home and have a nice quiet evening or life, watch their Jeopardy and go to bed. It doesn't matter what you love, Capricorn. It does matter that you allow yourself to love it. So this is where I think Celeste is representing a shift in your thought. And in this way, you don't have to feel depleted. That's what that ego feels like, because in the opportunity of the obstacle is Crystal saying, have faith and hope. And there's the love card. And in the angel's advice is Archangel Michael and the novice. This is asking you to have the courage to have a new beginning in implementing the things that you love. Capricorn represents leadership. It represents government and authority. And now I think what Pluto's been doing as it's been going through Capricorn is rewriting what that authority looks like. Starting to really look at the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom only works as hard as it needs to work to eat, to rest, and it gives I was thinking bedding or to create a den or a home. And it allowed that, animals look at Lucky. He sleeps most of the day. If you look at the things they say about dogs, a happy dog sleeps 16 hours a day or something. I don't know. It's a majority of time. My point for Capricorn is there is an opportunity for you to really start to implement leadership by allowing your joy, the things you love, the things that bring your life meaning to you as an individual to the forefront. And as you do that, you stand in more leadership than you ever have before, because I think that what this is saying right here is your history. And I'm going to say this lovingly. Daniel is asking you to really look at where you've edged God out historically, and to allow your mind to shift to a deeper truth of what brings you joy, and then to anchor that into the material world through your thoughts, through what you speak, so that by the time this new moon becomes a full moon in Gemini, you can anchor that into your everyday experience. And this is in your 6th house of service. It's in your house of work. So I really think for Capricorn, this is an opportunity to think if your everyday activities are aligned to the things that you enjoy and want to experience. And I want to offer it this way, because if you're of a certain age and you've already got a career started and you've done this for so long, it isn't about abandoning that. It's really about starting to reevaluate what makes your life feel purposeful, feel meaningful, and then allowing to give birth to that, rather than thinking that I must continue on because I've got so much history built here that I can't change. I can't shift. That, I think, might be tripping you up. Daniel is the angel of history in relationships and partnerships. And if for some reason Capricorn has been telling themselves, I need to do this. This is what is required of me to make sure everyone around me is safe. Are they going to be safe if your energy is in this place? Or will they feel safer if it's in this place of loving a new version of what can be? and standing in leadership for that. Because Archangel Michael is telling you not only do you need to implement courage in this new beginning, but that you will be protected. Okay, let's go on to our Aquarius, 5th house of romance, also personal creativity, the place where people will applaud you for what you birth into the world. Let's see. Aquarius, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Adriana. The second is Azure. The third is Bethany. And the final is Ray. Adriana is being joined by the Love card. Azure's being joined by the Eagle. Bethany is being joined by the Wind Fairy. And Ray's being joined by the Joy card. The first thing I thought of, Aquarius, is that you are birthing something, you are innovating something, you are potentially rebelling against the old, and I think this is awesome. And I want to offer it this way, because rebelling doesn't necessarily have to be a problem. It's just a claiming of oneself, because Adriana is leading you to the answers to your prayers, and there's the Love card. Every human wants to go to intimate love, but I think this is about all kinds of things that we love. And when I think about we're moving into the age of Aquarius, Aquarius rules innovation, it rules technology, it rules places we've never been before. The 11th house rules our hopes and our dreams. So for Aquarius, your Gemini is your 5th house. So as you let yourself individualize, or at least at this very moment, think about, talk about, absorb, get more and more information about the things that you want to create. You have the wonderful aspect between Neptune and Mercury, the ruling planet of this moon. They're making a sextile. This is allowing to really, it's going to bring up the creative thinking. It's going to stoke the imagination. So as you allow your connection to spirit, to the universe, to call forth your creativity, you're going to find in the very near future that there's been an opportunity that's been afforded to you. But part of it is because you've connected to an integrity that speaks to your own personal creativity. And this is what you've been implementing. You've been thinking about what makes me happy. Oftentimes when I'm working with people and I do readings, I tell them that when you try to play to the audience, when you try to write a story for the audience, it'll mess you up because there's so many different opinions within that audience. But if you write something that you enjoy, or something that you find funny, or you create a piece of art, or you bake a cake, anything you enjoy will inadvertently find its audience. So I feel for some reason, again, fifth house always requires an audience. It's where we want applause for what we've created. So Gemini being our network, our siblings, our teammates, our workmates, all of these things speak to me where Aquarius is birthing some sort of individuality, something for them. They're starting the ideas of this, and this idea is being fueled by spirit because it's also playing to the idea that we're moving into this Aquarian age where we will start to applaud human beings for their authenticity, not their necessarily falling into the herd and being homogenized into what's expected, but rather being colorful, being more rainbow-like. Because when I see Ray, I feel like this time I'm seeing like this creativity coming out of the top of her crown chakras and the joy. And Adriana is leading you towards what you love. And I think that joy comes from you birthing this idea that feels innovative. And if indeed you don't see the actual fruits of that labor, you will feel the fruits of that labor as we move forward. So staying in touch with your own integrity into what you find, I want to use the word amazing, what you find exciting, what you find titillating, what you find what motivates you and inspires you to get up in the morning. And I really think this is about an audience of one for right now, you being your own audience. And then as you birth this out into the world, you will find that it will create its own momentum, its own sense of attraction to those that align with it. Okay. Let's go to our final side, Pisces. This is in your 4th house of home and property. Family. Let's see what's going to happen here. As I start to tune in, there's a good possibility for Pisces that the Pluto aspect that's taking place, or Pluto's trining Mercury, we may find some family members, because, you know, Gemini rules siblings. They may be willing to just tell you like it is, tell you what they're thinking, what they're feeling. And I want to offer this because Pisces is a very mutable, cooperative sign and often will defer to others. And I feel as if with Neptune making an aspect to this particular Mercury retrograde, for you to give yourself an opportunity to decide if this really resonates with you on a spiritual level. Because I feel like I want to just throw the Gemini dynamic. I feel like this is something to do with your siblings. It's in the 4th house. If you're an only child, it could be cousins, but it feels like it's somehow family related, people in your family circle. Let's see what Spirit has to say. Because it may be that the Saturn influence is bringing up something that needs to be cleared out, and the Pluto dynamic is going to bring it up. Indriel is the light worker. Crystal is saying have faith and hope. Celeste is talking about a shift. There's Daniel, the angel of marriage again, also the angel of history and partnership. That's the primary energy there. Pisces, Indriel is being joined by the burden card. Crystal is being joined by the joy card. Celeste is being joined by the spider, and Daniel is being joined by the stag. I very much feel, because of the 4th house aspect, I'm kind of taking this into my family dynamic, my family story, my family history. And I want to offer this too, because by nature, Pisces is a very spiritual sign. And right now you may find just a bit of challenge in feeling that connection to the lighter side of yourself, that energy, that light worker. But I want to offer it this way. Right now, I feel like this is an opportunity for you maybe to take this Gemini new moon and plant the seeds of your own personal joy for what you want in the way of your own personal family. I'm not married. That dog over there is my family. And I really connect with the idea that regardless of the number of people in my family, an intention for that family is very important. And I want to say it this way, because Celeste is about my thinking, and the spider right now feels like it's about sticking to that thought. So this is where I'm going with this. Pisces, if for some reason your family history has been challenging and people are a little bit stubborn in their way of being, it isn't about focusing in on them. It's about focusing in on yourself right now and what you want in the way of a higher vibrational experience. Because I think that as you start to focus in on what do I want in the way of my family, how do I want to feel joy? And I start to think that, you know what, it isn't about always getting along. It's about constructive not getting along, or constructive disagreement, or constructive challenges, because part of this is always going to be the way I'm thinking. And now I want something to stick. I want to get into that web and into my network, and I want the changes to stick. Because here in the final position is Daniel, the angel of marriage, but Daniel refers to the history and relationships because that's the dominant energy I bring into the relationship or into the situation. Now, the stag represents leadership. It also represents stubborn pride. So right now, while you are going through this situation where the new moon in Gemini is planting the seeds for something to shift, for something to come about, there's a very good possibility that somebody will say something that might be slightly challenging. They might just reach a certain level of, I just have to tell you my truth. I'm not sure if I can tell it to you in a way that's always palatable, but at the same time, it offers an opportunity to clear the air and to rebuild through the friction, Saturn, old things, historic things, and then use that energy to start a new platform for building. So it may also be where we just have to say bygones. If indeed this has to do with family members and people who you love and you don't want to have disruption with, then sometimes it's just agree to disagree. And I think that it may feel a little bit challenging in the beginning, but as we get through and these aspects start to reveal more information, more, I'm going to interrupt myself, Pisces, but I think there may be an illumination where you realize the other party is more stuck in the history than you are. So as you sit in joy and go, okay, Spirit, I know what it's like when a human gets stuck in their story, and then they continue to defend that story while the whole time they're saying they want the story to change. Pisces is going to sit within that shift and that change. Overall, I want to say this: thoughts are things. Thoughts are the beginning of our experience. And focused thoughts, repetitive thoughts manifest. And if we really, that's why we say history repeats itself, because we focus on our story. We focus, we brace. I don't want to experience that again. And we have a real hard time emotionally connecting to a shift. It is very, very natural for the human to be that way. So as we're gentle with ourselves and as we are allowing our imagination to take us into thoughts and realms that feel fanciful, we actually can bring that fantasy into reality. And then we really start to shift the human experience. And that's what 20s are all about. 2020, all the way through moving forward, we should hit, I believe the age of Aquarius gets solid in 2024. We'll see Pluto in Aquarius creating that change in 2024. So now is a time to prepare ourselves, and not in a way to brace, but intentional co-creation with the universe, and being willing to look at whatever disruptions come up as an opportunity to either build resources, to build confidence, or to move out energies that aren't serving us. Okay, that's our Gemini new moon on May 30th, 2022 at 4:30 a.m. Pacific time. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, intuitive astrologer, Reiki master, and empowerment coach. And if you'd like to book a reading with me, my information is below in the description. And I'll be back on Sunday morning, this Memorial Day, live 11 a.m. Pacific time with Traversing the Transits with Teri Hunter. And that's all I can think of for now. So I'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.